Everyone, it's Mark Sotomayor from Treecup Tea here. I am in Dallas, Texas right now at the Brown Bag Coffee and Tea Company. We are at 7610 North Stemmons Freeway, Dallas, Texas, zip code 75247. If you ever want to check out over 300 varieties of coffee and tea, loose leaf and bulk, come here. It is the best coffee shop I have had in DFW. It's the first episode of Tea Talks. Today we're going to talk about the OG of tea. This is Ceylon black tea. It is produced in Sri Lanka. We're going to try the tea here and give you a little bit of the history as well as some of the benefits of drinking tea. I don't know if you know, but in Asia, the people are super healthy. They live a very long time. Their skin looks great. They're somewhat in shape, slender and such. It's because tea, in large part, is a huge part of their diet. Did you know that in the world, after drinking water, drinking tea is the most common beverage in the whole world? Now, in America, we don't drink as much tea, mostly like soft drinks and stuff of that sort. But that's going to have to change because tea is so good, we need to bring it to America. So let's make tea great again. All right. Here we have this Brown Bag Coffee and Tea branded infuser. We're going to take this little infusion cup and we are going to put a portion of this black tea in it. It smells amazing. One of the key differences in black tea as opposed to green tea, jasmine tea, oolong tea, even white tea, if you've heard of that, is that it is more oxidized, more quote-unquote fermented. It is more processed to alleviate a lot of those things, a lot of the word is chlorophyll that is in the leaves. That makes it taste like grassy and a little bit more appetizing to the human palate. Alrighty, so here we got the hot water. Let's pour it in. Alrighty. While it is infusing right now, we're going to give you a little bit of the history of what's happened in Sri Lanka. So, India and Sri Lanka were a colony of British land from 1757 to 1947. So, because of that, they have a lot of direct ties to importing and exporting straight to the motherland of Britain. So the tea producing is done by hand there. The buds as well as the leaves are picked off by hands by individuals who've been doing this a long time. Mostly Indians that were transported to Sri Lanka by the British in order to be their workforce. So the nice part about this is that back in the day, they actually used to do a ton of coffee. But coffee, there was a disease going around that attacked these plants, which made all their coffee plants die and their export virtually null and void. And thus, they started doing tea. To this day, it's proved way more profitable. One of the reasons that people should drink black tea as opposed to soft drinks like soda or sugary drinks, things you buy in stores, is because firstly, it reduces the risk of cancer. It's got a ton of polyphenols, which is good at breaking down and inhibiting this sorts of growth. It lowers the risk of diabetes, and it helps those who do have diabetes. There's things called catechins and theoflavins that guard against beta cell dysfunction and increase your body's sensitivity to insulin. So if you don't want to get any of these sorts of illnesses like diabetes, very common, drink black tea, drink any sort of tea that comes from the Camellia sinensis plant, which is the genus plant, which all tea that is caffeinated is made from. And then it supports your heart health. Heart attack as well as stroke is one of the main things that is the leading causes of death. Especially in the United States, but worldwide. And black tea has flavonoids, which is known scientifically to decrease the chance of heart attack and stroke. It also decreases your blood pressure. So for older men, you might be drinking a lot of beer, a lot of liquor, a lot of chips, a lot of pretzels, what have you. You want to actually start incorporating more black tea into your diet so you can get some of these good effects and be less on cholesterol medication, more on black tea. To that point, it also lowers LDL cholesterol. One of the things I like the most about it, as opposed to, say, drinking coffee, something else I do drink a lot of as well, is that it helps your brain concentrate. The alpha part of your brain has more activity because you drink coffee or because you drink tea. There's this chemical called L-theanine, which green tea has a little bit more of these contents, but it's still found in black tea as well. It kind of that buzz you get from the caffeine, it levels it off with a sort of more long-term sort of focus. L-theanine is very, very good if you're studying for a long period of time, or if you don't really want to have a crash, like how coffee sometimes makes people crash. You can take L-theanine, and it's more of a sustained focus. It's also great for weight loss. It reduces the triglyceride levels, and is very anti-inflammatory. Which inflammation, like bloating, when it builds up for long periods of time, that can turn to fat. It's better to just flush out those toxins in the human body. So, another last but not least, it fights cold. Very much antimicrobial properties. So against salmonella and even E. coli, but it won't harm that good bacteria in your gut. In fact, it'll just make it a better environment. It's also one of the most anti-cancerous drinks and beverages on the planet. I highly recommend everyone, as when they're young to when they're old, to drink black tea or really any sort of tea from the Camellia sinensis plants to replace where they're getting their caffeine from. Last but not least, bone density. I remember growing up, I had a lot of bone breaks. I wish I would have drank more black tea. It's actually known to make your bones more dense, as vitamins, minerals, some polyphenols and such, which are more rare to find in other parts of food and of the different food families. But in tea, it is plentiful. So, because this is from Sri Lanka, you may have some trouble finding the most and the best qualities of these. There's wholesalers and distributors which sell them by the loose leaf. I highly recommend that. I recommend using an infuser or like a teapot, something like this, or this. You can put the leaves within this and steep it in hot water, and it will infuse it. Or you could use a non-bleached tea bag. So there's a big difference between using a non-bleached and a bleached tea bag. This one, as you can see, it's more brown. This was not treated with bleach. Similar to what coffee filters use, I would also use unbleached. Now, the reason being is because that bleach actually gets into what you're drinking, and you can even see a thin layer of it. If you use bleached tea bags like this, you can see a thin layer floating on top of the beverage. So now that we have our black tea turning pretty much darker, we're going to open it up and try it out. Now, I remember when I first started my company, Treecup Tea, my mom made a blend of black tea infused with cinnamon, cloves, and anise. Back in the day, she would use Lipton tea bags. Lipton does use a blend of Sri Lankan leaves and Indian leaves, I believe, in their product. That Lipton is probably the most drank black tea in the world, probably definitely in the United States. And my mom would always make tea growing up. I mean, I would drink this by the pitcher full growing up. So let's see how this goes. The smell alone is not totally planty. As I said, there's a lot of that chlorophyll that's already been processed out by the oxidation, the fermentation process, where they pretty much heat up and break apart the leaves as much as possible. Green tea would have a much more grassy, planty, leafy sort of taste. Yeah, that's good. And it's very smooth stuff. here at Brown Bag Coffee and Tea Company, they have dozens of varieties of black tea. Highly recommend you check them out online. You can order directly from them, as well as in person if you're ever in Dallas. Wow, that's some good stuff. The British really love this, as well as all of Europe, because it's great conversationally. There's a saying in Nepal where they drink a lot of tea socially. The first cup of tea is as strangers. The second cup of tea is as friends. And by the third cup of tea, and yes, they do drink that much tea together socially, by the third cup of tea, you become family. So it really does have that dynamic socially. In Britain, they have their tea time, afternoon tea, where they get together. They have little handheld hors d'oeuvres, I guess, and they just hang out. They drink tea. They talk about the latest tea, the gossip around town or whatever. I don't know. But back then, they didn't have the same sort of entertainment we have now. They did have one another to talk about and such. They would probably pair this with some milk, with some cream, or and probably definitely a lot of sugar to it. So with the reforms happening in the United States, there's going to be a lot of, I guess there could be a lot of crackdown on different foods as well as beverages for having an unethical amount of unnatural and even cancer-causing, illness-causing diseases that are scientifically proven. I know, for example, with another food group in the cereal industry, with Fruit Loops, they use different sort of artificial coloring and even flavoring. In other countries, they use organic or more natural sorts of ingredients. But in the United States, being that our policies are different when it comes to food production and processing, they can use lower quality ingredients that are probably cheaper, but that end up making them a couple more pennies per the dollar, which adds up, but that ends up causing long-term illnesses in people. So the tea is a great, and honestly a tastier exchange to say soda and other things you can find at convenience stores in the United States. I believe tea can and will become a huge thing in the United States. It already probably should be, and that is probably one of my life's goals and missions, to make America quote unquote healthy again by drinking this amazing stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible, and I look forward to the next episode of Tea Talks, where we learn a little bit more about the next tea on our docket. What's it gonna be? You comment below. Goodbye, everyone. Peace. Have a good day.